Let's look at the largest vehicle exhibition on Earth. Every August, 15 industrial halls beside the Rhine fill up for the Caravan Salon in Dusseldorf. Inside those halls, you will find over 800 exhibitors displaying roughly 2,500 motorhomes to hundreds of thousands of attendees. Every vehicle on that floor has to solve a nearly impossible architectural problem. It needs to operate as a self-sustaining house with a dedicated place to sleep, cook a meal, and take a shower, all within a single rigid footprint. But unlike a static house, it is also a road-legal machine. It is strictly bound by maximum axle weights, aerodynamic drag, and a width narrow enough to safely thread down a medieval French village lane without scraping the walls. When you force high-density living requirements to overlap with strict vehicle regulations, you end up with the tightest geometric puzzle in modern consumer design. Most buyers, and even seasoned critics, walk into these spaces and evaluate them like a traditional living room. They run hands over the upholstery, check the laminate on the counters, and admire the recessed lighting. But a premium fabric cannot widen a narrow aisle. If the central walkway forces two adults to squeeze awkwardly past each other while someone is cooking, the layout is broken. The daily friction you feel living in that space is entirely disconnected from the quality of the veneer. A high-end finish cannot fix a flawed user experience, because the true environment was decided months before anyone opened a catalog of surface materials. That experience is determined upstream, in a foundational document called the package drawing. This is where engineers map out the unalterable spatial fate of the vehicle at the concept phase. This blueprint is a zero-sum currency. With a fixed boundary, any space added to one function is subtracted from another. Demanding a larger bathroom immediately compresses the adjacent sleeping quarters. Extending kitchen counters for prep space fractures the lounge, pushing seating together. Concept design here is not an exercise in boundless creativity. It is an unyielding chain of spatial trade-offs. Because space is so tight, every inch has to perform double duty. The most honest way to grade the geometry is to watch the physical environment transform from one living mode to another. If a dining table fights you every single night when you try to collapse it into a bed, it proves that the secondary mode was bolted onto the design as a complete afterthought. This animation shows the hallmark of a successful blueprint. The bed and the seating area were mounted overlapping one another on the exact same spatial coordinates from the very first concept sketch. The physics of these spaces are brutal. If the underlying geometry clashes, there is no material upgrade that will save it. The only fix is to tear up the drawing and start over. The final feeling of the environment is dictated by architectural determinism, locked into the plan long before any physical construction begins. This extreme packaging constraint is no longer isolated to the RV industry. Two massive global markets are colliding with these exact same spatial problems today. First, as vehicles move toward automation, the cabin is shifting away from a driving focus. Inside modern concept cars, the space operates as a mobile lounge, with swiveling seats pointing inward toward a central hub. Looking from the driver's perspective, this requires flat floors and highly modular layouts. The automotive industry is suddenly trying to solve the precise multi-use puzzle that caravan makers have been refining for 60 years. Second, as urban real estate becomes scarce and expensive, residential architecture is shrinking. The micro-living movement relies entirely on fold-flat tables, Murphy beds, and modular walls to make tiny apartments viable. Without anyone really noticing, the motorhome has served as a decades-long laboratory for the future of dense, multifunctional living. A high-end sports car can afford to have poor packaging. It can hide its spatial compromises behind beautiful exterior sculpture. But an object designed for human habitation has nowhere to hide. As our everyday environments continue to compress, the margin for error in foundational spatial planning disappears entirely. Design decisions are cheap as a sketch, but brutal once tooled. You have to see every angle before you build. A film by Depix Design Intelligence.